Let's take you further afield now. A Bloomberg report says US President Donald Trump has nominated Brent Bozell III to become the country's ambassador to South Africa. It comes as diplomatic tensions between Pretoria and Washington continue to deteriorate. US correspondent Simon Marks joining us live from Washington this evening. Simon, good evening to you and thanks for your time. Firstly, let's try and get some confirmation from your end as to whether indeed this individual has been put forward as a person that will likely be the US's ambassador to South Africa, and if so, what do we know about him?
Yeah, I think we can confirm this here on Newzroom Afrika this evening, Golly, because if you go to the congressional website here in Washington, D.C., which is obviously an official government website, and this is where the information has emerged from, Brent Bozell is now listed as having been nominated by the Department of State, and therefore, of course, by President Donald Trump, to be the next ambassador to the Republic of South Africa. Now, there's been no official word on this from President Trump, who up until now has been announcing all of his ambassadorial postings through postings on his own social media platform, Truth Social. There's been no confirmation of this publicly by the State Department, but what's taken place here is basically a data dump onto the congressional website because they have to tell members of Congress that these nominations have been made so that members of Congress can prepare the confirmation hearings for all of these ambassadorial selections. And that is where we are able to find what seems to be official confirmation that Brent Bozell is indeed to be the next US ambassador to South Africa. And this is a surprise for two reasons. First of all, Brent Bozell thought he already had a job in the Trump administration. He was supposed to be heading up the Agency for Global Media. That is the umbrella organization at government level that oversees the Voice of America, Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, Radio Free Asia, all the other international broadcasting activities of the United States government. But as you know, as of 2 weekends ago, all of those activities were shut down. So suddenly Brent Bozell was essentially putting himself out of a job by closing all of those different media organs. So he's now getting a new job, potentially, in South Africa if he's confirmed. The other reason, of course, why it's a surprise is because we all thought that Donald Trump's nominee was going to be Joel Pollak, the writer from Breitbart News, who has the president's ear and is definitely one of those prominent voices that has taken the US-South African bilateral relationship, I think it's not overstating it to say, into the abyss over the last few weeks. So in Brent Bozell, the Trump administration is picking a figure who, unlike Joel Pollak, has not been publicly critical of the South African government, but he's definitely someone who is absolutely aligned from a geopolitical and ideological perspective with Donald Trump.
Well, it remains to be seen how South Africa is going to react to that nominee. Let's talk about the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, because he has been focusing on South Africa quite intently. The 24th of March, I think that was about a day ago, Simon, putting out a tweet and again with the caption, "Kill the Boer." Give us the context here. Why is he prompting this once again, particularly on the back of the expelled ambassador returning to South Africa?
Yeah, well, I think it is off the back of that, but it's also off the back of some intemperate language that has been reported by Breitbart News and others that have been used by some in South Africa. Marco Rubio plugging away at what is very much his ongoing criticism of South Africa in that tweet saying, "Kill the Boer" is a chant that incites violence. South Africa's leaders and politicians must take action to protect Afrikaner and other disfavored minorities. The United States is proud to offer those individuals who qualify for admission to our nation amid this continued horrible threat of violence. I mean, that tweet only underscores the fact that the bilateral relationship between the United States and South Africa is in so much difficulty. And you are absolutely right to make the point, Golly, that the South African government will have to decide whether it is going to accept the nomination of Brent Bozell as the next US ambassador. One of the things that we know about him, like Marco Rubio and like Donald Trump, is that Mr. Bozell is absolutely committed to being a steadfast, vocal supporter of and ally to Israel. And on this particular announcement, this confirmation that Brent Bozell is being named the next US ambassador to South Africa, you know, that aspect of frustration by the United States with South African foreign policy, South Africa taking Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu to the ICJ on charges of war crimes and the allegations that the South African government was making at the ICJ, that has stuck in the craw of the Trump administration to exactly the same degree as these false claims that President Trump and Marco Rubio make about the Expropriation Act in South Africa. So it's interesting that the primary biographical information about Brent Bozell that South Africans will digest, I think, is his proximity to and alliance with Israel. That's going to become an issue. But also it's important to underscore that Brent Bozell has a long history here in Washington, D.C. of being a pretty far-right conservative before Donald Trump ever came along and revolutionized far-right conservatism. For a long while here, he ran an outfit called the Media Research Center, that particularly from a conservative and Christian perspective would point out what it claimed were biases in media coverage here and misinformation in media coverage here. And you can hear the echoes of all of those arguments in much of what Donald Trump says about the media disposition in the United States. So there's a connection between Brent Bozell and that tweet by Marco Rubio, and it's the connective tissue that ties them together in terms of their steadfast support for Israel.
Simon Marks, thank you very much for making all that clear to us. And Brent Bozell III is the nominee to become the US ambassador to South Africa.